Good evening from Thailand. My name is John Ho, and I am the host of this episode of TCP. Remote Trends is our theme today, and I'm very happy to have another speaker to talk about another topic of remote trends. Tonight, I'm very happy to invite the president of Meal Plan Delivery, Jimmy, to be a speaker to talk about how to run a company remotely. And I think if there's anyone who can speak on this topic, it has to be Jimmy himself. So can you please introduce yourself to the audience, to people who have not met you yet?
Of course. My name is Jimmy Kostro. I'm founder and president of Meal Plan Delivery. We are a 250-person company based on the East Coast of America in 25 different markets. And we've been fully remote the past 4 years. The company is about 5 years old.
First question I want to ask you, where are you currently and what is your time zone comparative to your teams working in the original city?
So I'm currently in Medellin, Colombia. It's another very big remote work or location independent work hotspot. And I'm 1 hour difference than my team on Eastern time zone. So we're 1 hour behind, and I'm 12 hours behind of where I live in Chiang Mai.
I understand you have a company of 200 staff that you've been running for the past 2 years?
Well, no, it's
completely remotely.
This has been 4 years, completely remote, 250 staff, 4 years.
And so of this 4 whole years that you were running this company, how many times have you actually been at the head office and met with your staff physically?
Never, not one.
How do you do it?
Well, I just when I had a corporate job, it really bothered me so much that I had to wear a certain dress uniform, be on a certain time, answer to a certain person. It was very frustrating, and that kind of bloomed me to be like, okay, let's build this in a way that we could have expectations. We could have black and white, communication. There's no he said, she said. And we want to be able to do it without requiring someone to be in that uncomfortable position that I was in. So out of necessity, by being uncomfortable, I had designed it in a way of saying, I never want to be forcing anyone to stop having dinner with their family to answer my stuff. I want it to be, here's our mission or assignment or the protocol. And when they got time, they could digest it, process it, and say, okay, this is something for me. So we would find people that this worked for too. That's kind of how it incubated, and then it molded out to saying, okay, everyone's everywhere, and that it kind of morphed into it like that. That's a kind of quick, weird way of explaining how it started.
So this is by design of your desire to be really running your company anywhere you are, at any time zone, at any physical location. And was this something that you communicated with your team when you started to run the company this way, or
yes,
did they just have to deal with the situation because you have made this decision?
So two things. It's twofold. One, when we started the business, we were growing fast. So the warehouse distribution location was like 20 minutes down south. We were in South Florida at the time, where the operations are still headed. And then we were running operations up in Lake Worth or Palm Beach County, and like central Palm Beach County. So like we're having to go back and forth. It's like, why do we have to go back and forth? Do we have to see we're growing too fast to have, if we have 5 people a week, now 10 people a week, now 20 people. It's like a logistics nightmare to get everybody together, to get them in a meeting, to get them in like on time. Like, no. Like, so we're like basically doing operations 20 minutes away, and we're realizing we really don't need to go down there that often if we put the right people in place at the physical location. Because listen, there has to be some management at physical locations. While we run the organization in the management level remotely, on the ground, we do deliver food. So there has to be there is some lower level management connection there. So once we had trust and confidence in the management and supervisors there was very little reason to go, because we had such trust and confidence in that management system. So that's kind of how it morphed, because we wanted to design it like that. 2, we were forced to design it like that because we're growing too quickly. And 3, we realized all we have to do is have a quality, consistent manager, and we won't have to go down there as much. So that's kind of how it worked.
Now, when you hired your team of management, did you selected people that you knew they can adapt to this kind of working style? Because, to my understanding, being able to work remotely is not it's not everyone's cup of tea. Some people might, be particularly into it, but some people really want to be in an office and seeing
Yeah,
their team on a day-to-day basis. Like, what is that process when you hire people
got it.
for that particular working culture?
You and or your team have to say, what exact qualities are we looking for? Like let's really like pros and cons, list it out. Who exactly we're looking for. And then when you write your ad, then you'll list that expectation and kind of that framework. Then this is where the magic happens. You're going to get a lot of responses because of all the reasons. And then it goes into a questionnaire. So you go to like Google Forms, which is free if you have any Gmail account, and you could just create a questionnaire. And now you could ask very specific questions. And then there gets a report once all of those questions are answered. And you're like, okay, this person's a good fit. And then at the end of it, so you're basically funneling them down into like, are you very comfortable working independently? Because there's going to be no oversight. And when you find people answer your questions like, I prefer, look forward to, and love being independent, you're like, okay, let's keep that. That's like, we'll rate that one as like a +1. And so at the end of it, you'll look at in the Excel sheet, wow, these people landed at like 20 points. We'll look at those top 10 there and say, okay, that's how we communicated what we're looking for. So again, it's exact, crystal clear job description, which isn't going to save you. Then it funnels into your questionnaire, which is going to really make it pinpoint who might be the better candidate. And then you ask them for their resume, or if you might even have it at that point, I'm not sure. So, and then you could do a phone if you want to too. I don't do phones either. Like we don't do phones either. We don't think that's right. So yeah, that's kind of how we mold into our hiring for independent people.
So the key thing that I'm hearing is when you're selecting the people that is working for you, that they are capable to work remotely, independency is a big one.
Huge.
And obviously, they have to work without supervision of someone like in close proximity.
Yep. So you give
Got
them
it.
an expectation. You're basically going to have them have, here's what we have to get achieved. Then there's the KPIs to see if it's being achieved. And then you give them more freedom and you stop bothering them and you don't micromanage them. And then you're looking for the ones that don't want to be micromanaged. And then you have to make sure your team doesn't micromanage them. But if you set the expectation in the beginning saying, hey, we might be like, supporting you a little bit more in the beginning, make sure you're good. Just let us know when you're golden. And then it'll just be black and white expectation driven. And then we're good.
We'll come back to the point about micromanagement. But you mentioned also something that's quite interesting, which is you said you don't do phone calls much. And I know also that you mentioned previously before the recording that you do not like Zoom calls. Can you tell us why do you not like phone calls? Do you not like Zoom calls? And what is your preferred way of communication at work?
If it's an important phone call, what's your next thing that you have to do when that phone call hangs up? You have to like write this down, or during the call, you should be taking notes, or we need some type of summary because that was important. So anything that could be considered important should probably be reviewable, and not like, did he mean it like this? Did she say it like that? Wait, what was the 15th thing they said? Like all of it should just be totally reviewable. So at any time we could go back and say, this is exactly how we both articulated it. We both agreed on it. Oh yeah, you're right. My apologies. Let's move on, because we don't want any friction in the relationship between the partners or providers or clients or subscribers or members, whatever. We don't want any friction. We want complete consistency. And the best way that we could achieve this is by eliminating any points of friction, which would be phone calls. Different cultures are different things. Like, in some jobs, you need to be on the phone. It needs to be like that, or designated times to make a phone call. I get it, but again, the root here is the main root here is we have to summarize this very important phone call, because everyone's time is so critical and valuable that we must somehow capture it. And unless we have like someone taking notes for us, it's probably better that we appreciate each other's time by not communicating verbally or physically or on video.
So I guess emails, or what
No.
sort of platform or medium do you use?
Great question. Yeah, of course. So you'll start with email, and like that gets like, unless you become like a folders master and you're super organized. But luckily, just there's things like Sparks, Teams, Monday, Slack, which we use. We're power users on Slack. NASA uses Slack. Their uptime's huge. And then it's super well organized. Middle management or higher management will alleviate all that. And then you'll see there's no questions, because if you just scroll back up to the top, or if you link them back into where in their channel they're supposed to be, then they're like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I overread that, I misread that. You did say that. Like, no matter what service, product, area, business, if you could communicate efficiently and effectively and clearly in a reviewable format, you are going to have the best chance.
Now, let's switch gears a little bit, because we also talked about micromanaging people, and most people don't like to do that. But I guess there's also another factor when we want to manage a company remotely, which is the issue of trust, or because you can't see things as clearly as you can, or as you think you can when you're in person. How do you, let's say, let go of doubt? Or how do you trust the team?
This is a tough personal thing for all of us, because when you're building a business, or you're running a company, you want to do everything because you know it's going to get done the way you need it to get done. So you're afraid to delegate that task. You don't want to have to micromanage, because you know if you do it, you're going to get it done probably the best way, because you're the one with the vision. But all of a sudden you're running out of time. And now every area is starting to get less efficient, or it's starting to
less perfect.
Yeah, less perfect. I don't know the word I got right now, but this is when you have to say, okay, I have to delegate, which means I might have to micromanage, which means I have to at some point trust. I have to. So what you do is, it goes back to the onboarding, the hiring practice. Is say, okay. I put instead of putting all my energy and focus into wearing 7 different hats for operations, management, payroll, accounting, marketing, sales, inventory, everything. It's like, well, you're way too spread thin. So what do? Your onboarding and hiring practice. This is where you laser focus, because then you're like, okay, went through the resumes, went through your questionnaires, looked at all the respondents, and then you're just like, okay, I'm going to have to trust many of these people, even though we don't know each other yet. I'm just looking. You just applied. I'm just looking. But somewhere along the line, this guy, John, is going to be in charge of a process, and I'm either going to have to micromanage him or not. And I'm going to have to trust him, because I simply can't do it all myself. So you hire smart. It's like anything. It's like building a foundation. Should you have built on a poor foundation, the rest of everything gets shaky and falls apart. I think onboarding and hiring is that foundation for you to be able to trust and limit micromanagement needs, because you're starting with a strong foundation and getting the best players early, to where you're not having to reorganize it higher up at the top.
It almost sounds like taking a leap of faith, but before that, there has to be prep work done.
A calculated leap of faith. Yeah.
I enjoy talking to you so much, Jimmy. I always feel like 20 minutes is not like, it's just, we're just touching the tip of the iceberg here, and there's so many things I can learn from you. But if there's another opportunity, I'm hoping that I can also invite you again to this platform to talk on another topic, but
sure,
specifically on helping people who also want to work remotely and manage their company remotely. Sure. So thank you once again, Jimmy, for doing this with me. You are watching this video, and if you enjoy this, please also click like and subscribe anywhere around this frame here. And next episode, we will also have another speaker to share with us some really good insights on how to work and manage your company remotely. So thank you, everyone, and see ya.